Hey guys, welcome back to Catapult. Welcome to another video in the series of contracts on Indian law. In this video, we shall discuss performance and breach of contracts under the purview of Indian Contract Act. In order to discuss the concepts of performance and breach, one important concept that we need to understand before delving into the performance and breach of Indian contract laws, that is the doctrine of severability. Now, sometimes in certain contracts, there may be lawful parts and there may be unlawful parts of the contract. According to this doctrine, if the lawful parts of the contract can be separated from the unlawful or illegal parts of the contract, then the contract must be separated and only the legal part will be valid. However, if the legal and illegal parts are inseparable or inseverable, in such a scenario, the whole contract altogether is said to be void. Let's look at an example. A contracts with B for bailment of gold and gems. According to the law, the bailment of gold was illegal. Since this contract was for the bailment of gold and gems together, the contract was held to be inseverable and thus altogether void. Now, what is performance of contracts? According to the Indian Contract Act, under a contract, a party must either perform or promise to perform the contractual duties at some point in time. Unless the contract specifies otherwise, these promises are held to be valid even after death. Although contracts for personal services such as painting, sketching or artistry work and other such services will not be invoidable after death. In such a scenario, such contracts cease to exist on the death of a certain person or promisor. Now, there is a concept of assignment in performance of contracts. Now, parties to a contract can assign or allocate their duties to another party. In such a scenario, the person to whom the assignment of duties has been given to is responsible for performance of the contract. For example, if there is a contract for delivery of goods and if I am a party to that contract, for some reason I am unable to deliver the goods at the right time, I assign that duty to another person, say B. However, one important thing to note here is that the consent of all the parties must be taken while assigning such a duty or part of the contract to another person. One important thing to note here is that such assignment makes the contract a new contract, a concept of novation that we'll come to in the latter part of this video. There is also an aspect of joint or severed liability in performance of contracts. So, for example, if there are more than one person which are party to the contract and they promise to do something collectively, in case of a breach, whether material or actual, the person who is harmed or damaged due to any breach or material breach has the right to sue either one or all the promisors collectively. This is the doctrine of joint and several liability. In such a scenario, if one of the promisor fulfills his duty or say pays compensation to the damaged party, then that person can take his share from other parties who did not fulfill their duties. For example, A, B and C promised to deliver certain goods to D at a certain point of time. However, due to several reasons, they could not deliver the goods. Now, D has the right to sue either A individually or A, B and C collectively. What if D decides to sue only A? Does that mean that B and C will be devoid of any liability? No. In such a scenario, A will be responsible to deliver the goods and or pay compensation. Later, A can retrieve his compensation or retrieve his share from C and B. Let's come to the concept of breaches. Now, there are several types of breach. One of them is a minor breach. A minor breach happens when the parties fail to fulfill a small part or something that is not supremely significant to the contract. In such a scenario, the responsibilities or damages are accorded according to the damage caused. For example, A promises to fix windows of B. However, B had created a certain specification for such a window. B had mentioned that only wind resistant windows should be replaced. Now, what happens is A replaced the windows by another normal window. In such a scenario, B can claim compensation from A. However, if the wind resistant windows and normal windows were priced similarly, B will be in a position to claim no compensation since this was not a significant part of the contract and constituted only a minor breach. Now the another type of breach is a material breach. A material breach takes place when a significant part of the contract is breached or a significant portion of specifications are not adhered to. For example, in the previous example of window fixing, everything is said and done. The windows are replaced by normal windows but not wind resistant windows. Now, if due to wind or a typhoon or something of the sort, the windows of B's house break and there is glass all over. In such a scenario, B can claim compensation from A for damage caused due to inconsistent performance of the contract. This would constitute material breach. In material breach, the parties are allowed to take damages from the other party. Another type is an actual breach. An actual breach occurs when a party refuses to perform or fails to perform a full part of their duty within the contract. For example, A promises to B that he will replace windows of B's house, but A completely fails to fulfill this promise and changes no windows in B's house. This is an actual breach of the contract and B can claim compensation from A for non-performance of the contract. Another type of breach is an anticipatory breach. An anticipatory breach occurs when a party beforehand only tells the other party that they will be unable to perform their contract or their share of responsibility. Now this may happen by actual communication of non-performance of the contract, or this may also damaged has the right to put an end to the contract only if they have not acquiesced for continuation of the contract. This concept of acquiescence is something that we'll come to in a bit. For example, A enters into a contract with B wherein B will cut the timber in the woods and use A's cart to deliver those timber to the railway station. While B was in the process of performing his share of contract, A goes ahead and sells all his cart. Now here, even though A has not communicated to B that the contract will not be able to be pulled through, A has essentially disabled himself from the fulfillment of his promise. In such a scenario, B has the right to put an end to the contract only if B has not shown by his conduct that it is okay with him. For example, if B by his conduct knows that A has sold all his carts, but he thinks A will somehow arrange to deliver the wood to the railway station, in such a scenario, B has essentially acquiesced to A's anticipatory breach, and in such a scenario, B will not be in a position to claim any damage from A. Now, what is this principle of acquiescence? This principle tells us that if a person who has certain rights sees that the other party is acting inconsistent to those rights, and if the person who has those rights chooses to be okay with such inconsistency, then they have essentially acquiesced to changes or inconsistent behavior. If they have acquiesced to such a behavior, they cannot come later and complain about non-performance of the contract or about a breach of the contract. Let's come to the concept of time, place and mode of performance. If no time is specified in the contract, then the contract should be performed within a reasonable period of time. However, if there is a certain time that is specified in the contract, then the contract must be performed within that specified period of time or on that specified date and time. In these scenarios, time is of essence in the contract. In contracts where time is of essence, if the contract is not performed within that period of time or on that specified point of time, then the party that is damaged because of such a non-performance has the right to claim damages from the party who breached their promises. Generally speaking, in commercial contracts, time is of essence. However, parties can also choose to specifically indicate whether time is of essence or not. For example, A agrees to supply sweets for B's daughter's weddings. On the day of wedding, there was no delivery of sweets and A delivered sweets the next day. Clearly, here time was of essence and A failed to perform the duties within the time that was specified, and here B has the right to claim damages from A because of failure of performance due to essence of time. Coming to the concept of place of performance of the contract. Usually the parties specify the place where the contract must be performed. If there has been no specification given, just like how time specification worked, in those scenarios, it has to be reasonably inferred from the contract as to where the contract must be performed. For example, A buys some goods from B who is in another city. Now A asks B to come to his office and collect payment for the goods. This is unreasonable because clearly B is in another city. So the payment must be made in a mode and method so that it gets delivered to B's place, that is B's city, unless B specifies otherwise. For example, if B specified that alright, I'll come to your city and collect, then that is valid. However, if there is no specification made, then the payment must be delivered to B in his city. Now, performance may be made in any manner which the promisee prescribes. For example, A is a tenant of B who is a landlord, and A pays his rent through a money order. However, A deducts the amount for services of money order fee from the total amount of the rent. Now, this is not acceptable unless B has acquiesced to such a thing, because if A is paying through money order, then A must not deduct that amount from the final amount of the rent. Now let's talk about the concept of impossibility and frustration. A promise to do an impossible act makes the contract void. However, if the promiser makes certain promises knowing that the performance of those promises would be impossible and the promisee was not aware of such an impossibility, then the promisee can get compensation from A later on due to impossibility of the contract. However, if the promiser makes certain promises about doing acts which the promiser could not think of being impossible and they become impossible later on, in such a scenario, this contract would be hit by the doctrine of frustration. For example, A enters into a contract with B to deliver some linseed oil and both are in different countries. Now this contract is signed and all is said and done, except the delivery is left. Now the government bans trade between these two countries. Now this contract becomes impossible after the contract has been signed. This contract is hit by impossibility subsequently. In such a scenario, neither A nor B are liable for any breach of performance because the contract became impossible or was rendered impossible due to factors outside the control of both the parties. Also, a contract cannot become impossible merely because it has become more difficult to perform or it has become less remunerative money-wise. In such a scenario, the parties have to fulfill their duties. For example, A manufacturer, promises to deliver certain machines to B. Subsequently, the government raises the tax on sale of machines by 20% and A realizes that there is no profit in this deal anymore. However, merely because it has become less profitable does not mean that A can shy away from his responsibility. This would not amount to impossibility of a performance of contract, and if A fails to deliver the machines, he will have to pay compensation for such a breach. In professional or industrial transactions and contracts, parties also sometimes insert a force majeure clause. This clause specifies situations or possibilities which neither party can anticipate, and therefore, in occurrence of such situations, neither party is liable to pay any damage or compensation to the other party. This clause is very common in commercial and industrial contracts and are used to help prevent overcompensation or illegitimate compensation owing to factors which are outside the control of both the parties.